Ever looked at a massive cruise ship gliding across the ocean and thought, what if I owned one of those? It sounds glamorous, tropical destinations, fine dining, and tens of thousands of smiling passengers. But behind all that luxury lies one of the most capital-heavy and complex businesses on the planet. In this episode, we dive into the economics of owning a cruise ship, how much it costs, how it makes money, and why it's both a dream and a logistical nightmare for even the wealthiest investors. A new cruise ship isn't just a vessel, it's a billion-dollar commitment before a single passenger steps aboard. The sticker price alone can stop even seasoned investors in their tracks. For a modern megaship, the build cost lands anywhere between $500 million and $1.5 billion. The world's largest, Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, crossed the $2 billion mark, setting a new industry record. But these are more than headline numbers. What really matters to operators is capacity, the number of paying berths. In 2024, the average cost per berth hovers around $300,000 to $350,000. That means every single bed, from the smallest inside cabin to the most lavish suite, represents the price of a suburban house. Where does all that money go? Roughly a third pays for the steel hull and superstructure, designed to withstand both storms and the constant vibration of engines. About 40% is poured into interiors, luxury cabins, sprawling dining halls, theaters, and water parks, all built to outshine the competition. Propulsion and power plants claim another 15%, especially as new ships shift to LNG or hybrid systems to meet strict environmental rules. The remainder covers navigation, safety, and the labyrinth of systems that keep thousands of passengers safe, fed, and entertained around the clock. Even with economies of scale, each new amenity, skydiving simulators, robotic bars, and glass dome promenades pushes the per-berth price higher. A 20% bump in passenger capacity only shaves a fraction off the per-person cost. For anyone dreaming of ownership, the first reality check is this. The upfront bill for a floating city is measured in hundreds of millions, and every extra berth multiplies that investment. Raising the capital to build a cruise ship involves a financial puzzle as intricate as the ship itself. No single company wires $1 billion to a shipyard. Instead, the funding comes together in layers, a blend of syndicated bank loans, export credit agency guarantees, and increasingly, sale and leaseback deals. According to a shipyard finance director, the money does not arrive all at once. Instead, payments are released in stages tied to construction milestones: steel cutting, hull assembly, engine installation, and final outfitting. This staged approach means that banks and export credit agencies, like Germany's Euler Hermes or Italy's SESI, share risk with the operator right up until the ship is delivered. For most new builds, debt covers 60 to 70% of the price, with export credit agencies often guaranteeing up to 30% at favorable rates. The remaining slice comes from the cruise line's own equity, or in some cases, from a leasing firm that takes legal ownership and leases the vessel back over 12 to 15 years. This structure keeps the operator's balance sheet lighter, but it also means long-term obligations stretch far beyond the ship's maiden voyage. Once delivered, the ship enters the books as a fixed asset, depreciated evenly over 30 years. Each year, 1/30 of the original cost is written down, regardless of market swings or passenger demand. For a $1.5 billion vessel, that is $50 million in annual depreciation before a single crew member is hired or a drop of fuel is burned. The capital burden is relentless, and it sets the stage for the operating pressures that follow. Every morning, the engines of a cruise ship roar to life, and so does the cash burn. Fuel alone can top $100,000 a day, even when operators hedge prices or slow down to save money. On a typical voyage, the ship burns through 120 to 150 tons of very low sulfur fuel oil or liquefied natural gas, depending on the vessel's design. At current spot prices, that is enough to rival the daily payroll of a small hospital. But fuel is just the start. Crew wages form the next layer. A megaship needs a small army, up to 2,200 people at full capacity. Most crew members come from the Philippines, Indonesia, or Eastern Europe, recruited for contracts that pay $700 to $1,500 a month for housekeeping or waitstaff, and up to $2,500 for technical crew. For many, the pay is $20 a day. The hours are long, 12 to 14 hours, 7 days a week, often for 9 months straight. A crew representative puts it bluntly, it's a grind, you work, you sleep, you do it again, but you send money home. Port fees and insurance pile on more pressure. Each stop in a major port can cost $20,000 to $40,000, not counting taxes and mandatory pilotage. Insurance covering hull, machinery, and liability adds another $30,000 to $60,000 a day, depending on the ship's size and claims history. These are not optional costs. They are the price of keeping a floating city legal and secure. Before the first meal is served or a slot machine spins, these unavoidable expenses are already draining the ship's bank account. The relentless outflow sets a high bar for what it takes just to break even, let alone turn a profit. Ticket fares set the baseline for a cruise ship's revenue, but the numbers tell a more complicated story. For a standard Caribbean itinerary, the average fare lands between $135 and $175 per passenger per day. This covers the essentials, a cabin, meals in the main dining rooms, and access to pools and shows. But these fares alone are rarely enough to cover the relentless tide of expenses, fuel, crew, port fees, and insurance which drain the ship's accounts every hour at sea. That's where the real engine of profitability comes into play. On board, nearly every aspect of the passenger experience is designed to encourage spending beyond the ticket price. The casino hums late into the night, specialty restaurants tempt with steak and sushi, and the spa offers treatments that rival any land-based resort. Bars, Wi-Fi packages, shore excursions, and boutique shops all add to the tally. On a modern megaship, these extras aren't just a nice bonus, they're essential. Ancillary spending now accounts for 30 to 35% of total revenue, a share that has steadily climbed as ships have grown larger and more lavish. For the ship owner, the math is clear. Every premium cocktail, every blackjack hand, every upcharge for a chef's table is margin. While ticket fares keep the lights on, it is the discretionary spend that tips the balance from survival to profit. A ship sailing at full capacity with high onboard sales can achieve gross margins in the 35 to 40% range, but a drop in ancillary revenue, whether from bad weather, itinerary changes, or shifting passenger tastes, can quickly erode that cushion. The dream of a floating palace depends not just on filling cabins, but on turning every passenger into a willing participant in the onboard economy. A hurricane brews in the Atlantic, and suddenly, a ship owner's carefully balanced profit plan unravels. The vessel diverts course, burning through extra fuel as it races to skirt the storm. Each detour adds tens of thousands to the daily fuel bill. Crew members rack up overtime, and passengers expect compensation for missed ports and canceled excursions. Onboard casinos and boutiques sit emptier than planned, stripping away the high-margin sales that keep the business afloat. For every day the ship is stranded or forced to wait out the weather, revenue vanishes, but costs keep piling up. In the worst cases, operators have no choice but to lay up the ship entirely. Keeping a vessel in warm layup with minimal operations and a skeleton crew costs between $50,000 and $100,000 a day. A full cold layup with systems powered down and most crew sent home still drains $20,000 to $40,000 a day. Multiply that by weeks or months, and a single storm does not just disrupt a schedule, it can erase months of profit, turning a floating palace into a money pit overnight. Behind the gleaming decks and endless buffets lies a world of legal maneuvering and tough in-game decisions. Nearly every major cruise ship sails under a foreign flag. Panama, the Bahamas, and Malta top the list. These so-called flags of convenience are more than a flagpole detail. They let owners pay lower corporate taxes, hire multinational crews at wages far below Western standards, and sidestep some of the strictest labor and safety regulations. For a ship owner, the choice of flag can mean millions saved each year, but it also means accepting the oversight and legal quirks of distant maritime authorities. Staying compliant with new environmental rules is another lever, but one with a steep price tag. Converting a ship to run on liquefied natural gas, or retrofitting it with advanced exhaust scrubbers can cost $150 million to $200 million, often 15% or more of the ship's original build cost. These upgrades aren't optional. The International Maritime Organization's carbon targets are tightening, and ships that fall behind can see their charter rates slashed or face higher insurance premiums. For some older vessels, the math simply doesn't work. When the cost of compliance outweighs the likely returns, owners face a stark choice: pour more capital into upgrades or send the ship to a scrapyard in Bangladesh or India. Scrap value typically covers just 5 to 7% of the original investment. It is a sobering end for a billion-dollar asset. At this crossroads, every owner must weigh global tax strategy, regulatory risk, and the shrinking salvage value of a floating city that has reached the end of its economic life. Beneath every sparkling atrium and infinity pool lies a high-stakes financial balancing act. Today, onboard spending, not ticket sales, often keeps these floating cities afloat. As global volatility grows, the industry's glossy facade depends on relentless risk management. In cruising, luxury is the illusion. Logistics is the reality. What would you risk for the dream?